The New York Jets have made a change at quarterback. Why this is the right decision, why this needed to happen. Also, why the Justin Fields contract isn't as bad as it's being made out to be. And on top of all of that, the Jets add some serious beef to the defensive line. All this and much more coming up on this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our in-season content. Of course, our NFL draft content once we get to the off-season. Plenty to do here. We have a lot of great Jets fans and a lot of great Jets beat reporters that come on the show as well. As I fumble on my words a little bit there, my apologies. But again, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe so you don't miss the live streams. If you're in the live stream, you can use that super chat to donate to the channel or jump to the front of the line. And of course, if you want to take us on the go, we are available wherever podcasts are available. So I've sounded like a broken record a lot, especially after the last game, why Tyrod Taylor needed to start. The Jets also made a move that I think was a very interesting move today, and I think is indicative of the type of defense that this team is looking to build. But I want to start off with this, which is with Justin Fields. We'll talk about Tyrod, I think his impact on the team, but I want to start off this with Justin Fields. I do feel bad for Justin Fields because by all accounts, he's a great kid. Hard worker, guys in the locker room love him, but it is clear that Justin Fields at this point in his career is not a starting NFL quarterback. At best, this moment, he looks like he can be a backup, make some flashy plays, be able to keep you in a game or two. But I almost feel like Justin Fields needs a complete reset. He needs to go to somewhere where he can be surrounded by a great team. I think a place like Baltimore, maybe going back to a place like Pittsburgh, somewhere where I think he can just be the backup, does not have the pressure to be the starter. And if he has to come in, he can basically come in for a game or two and make an impact with his legs. But overall, I think Justin Fields is hard because I think part of the reason the Jets and especially Aaron Glenn were trying this, even though we could see it wasn't working, was he's a good kid. He's obviously trying. But for Justin Fields, it's clear at this point in time, he doesn't see the field, he doesn't make the adjustments, and he cannot consistently win from the pocket. In this league, you need that. So with Justin Fields, it's tough. But one thing that I want to defend the Jets a little bit. I know. It's the Jets. They make a lot of bad decisions. But I want to talk about the contract for Justin Fields because I've seen a lot of people, especially in the national media, lambasting the Jets for this contract. Oh, I can't believe all that dead money they're going to owe him. They're going to owe him $22 million in dead cap next year. I can't believe the contract. How could they give them that much money? People seem to have very short-term memories. If I recall back during this offseason, Pittsburgh also really wanted Justin Fields, and there was a bit of a bidding war between the two. And the Jets had to give this contract in order to get Justin Fields to come here. And look, it was a risk. We knew this was going to be a lottery ticket for the Jets. And if they hit on it, we would have said that was a shrewd move. They got him for a cheap deal. But if it didn't work out, again, we would look at the contract. And look, $20 million something a year for a quarterback in the NFL today is chump change compared to see what the top guys are making. I'm not bothered by the dead cap. The cap continues to move up, and they're paying more dead money to Aaron Rodgers next year than they are to Justin Fields. And I don't think Justin Fields will be on this team next year. But for people killing the Jets about the contract, saying, I can't believe they're going to have that dead money. The Jets took a risk, but they took a calculated risk that I like even today and even in retrospect. Because when you look around with these lottery picks, you want to have some assurance. And I think the Jets want to do that. If Justin Fields play like the Justin Fields we saw week one, look consistent from the pocket, and look like the Jets could win 7 or 8 games with him at quarterback, this would have looked like a fantastic deal. Now, of course, it went the opposite direction, but where am I getting at this? Look at Indianapolis right now. Indianapolis did what the Jets did. They took a risk on a former top 10 pick with a lot of physical talent where it didn't work out in his first stop. And again, with Justin Fields, you could say the 2 stops with the Bears, then with the Steelers. But Daniel Jones is having an incredible season. You can't deny that. But now the Colts are in this funny position because they didn't give him a 2-year contract. They are in a position where all of a sudden now, if Daniel Jones regresses down the stretch or God forbid, gets hurt, what do you do at the end of the season? What if he plays great? The Colts get one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC, but they lose in the first round. There's going to be a lot of tough decisions. Do you franchise Daniel Jones? Well, you could, but that's combining the top 5 salaries in the National Football League. So you're going to be paying Daniel Jones as a top 5 quarterback. I don't think they're going to want to do that. Daniel Jones also probably realizes, especially with his injury history and with his history in the National Football League, this is probably his last time to get a major contract. So do I think he will be a top 5 paid quarterback? No, but do I think the contract he's going to want is top 10 money? I could see that. And with the Colts, it will be a good investment. Will be an investment they'll look back on 2 or 3 years and just shrug their heads and go, oh, okay, we made a bad decision. I look at another team like San Francisco. They did the same thing with Mac Jones. They got him under a 2-year contract, which now looks like a smart deal because Brock Purdy's coming back. And it's already been kind of made clear that Mac Jones probably will be available for a trade. Maybe Mac Jones could be a possibility for this Jet team next year as that, quote, bridge quarterback, someone that's a more accurate passer, not as great of an athlete, but maybe especially working with Shanahan for a year, that might help his development. You look at what his impact on Sam Darnold has been. Maybe it costs you a 2 day 3 picks for his services, maybe a 3rd round pick, but maybe it might be worth it for a plug and play starter. So again, the 2-year contract seems like, at least because it's a controllable asset, seems like smart investments for both the 49ers. And look, if the Jets had worked out, that would have been great. But unfortunately, hindsight's 2020. I still think the Jets did the right thing because if they hit on Justin Fields, it would have been a great contract. And even still, $22 million is not great, but they're probably going to draft a young quarterback. They have, I believe, the most cap space. Not their top 3 in cap space next year, regardless, with all the contracts they've gone off the books. So the Jets have money so they could eat it. So I don't have a problem. But that gets us to Tyrod Taylor. And again, comments, super chat to jump to the front of the line. Tyrod Taylor is interesting. And I think one of the reasons Tyrod Taylor has not played is because he was hurt. We learned about the injury before the Cincinnati game. And I do think what the Jets have kind of said without saying it was he's not really ready to go yet, which is a concern. But I think they realize now he's their best option. This is why I look at Tyrod Taylor. At this point for the Jets, you want to win a couple games, build that down the stretch. That's, of course, what you want to do in terms of the culture. But the biggest thing for this Jet team, and why I've been clamoring for Tyrod Taylor, isn't that I think Tyrod Taylor all of a sudden gives them this better chance to win, even though I think they'll actually have a passing offense with Tyrod Taylor, not be running the Service Academy offense. But the big thing for this team is they need to evaluate what is on this team. So when they go to this offseason, they know what to attack, and especially on this offense. I think the offensive line is very good, but we have to assess the skill positions. And I look at 3 players in particular, and I look at the receiving room. Do I think this also helps Mason Taylor, who even despite the faults with Justin Fields, who I think is having a good season? Yes, I want to see Mason Taylor continue to develop. I think he's got the skill set to be a very good tight end. But this, to me, is going to benefit the receivers. The way, if I'm the New York Jets, I'm handling this season, especially now Garrett Wilson's IR to week 15. I'm at the point where I'm almost shutting Garrett Wilson down unless you can clearly see he's 100%. He just wants to play. But at this point, I think what you go down the stretch with is these 3 receivers. You go down the stretch with A.D. Mitchell. You go down the stretch with John Mechie, and you get Arian Smith involved in this wide receiving room. Because you have to get an evaluation of them. And you have to see where they fit in next year's picture. I still think this team, at the end of the day, is going to have to get a number 2 receiver, whether it's through a trade, whether it's through free agency, or what I think most likely the NFL draft. Because I do think this is a very good wide receiver class. I think this is a very good defensive end class, which are right now two of the big position needs for this team. But when I look at this wide receiver room, you want to get answers, and you're not going to get answers with Justin Fields throwing the ball 15 times a game. You're just not. And part of the reason I defended A.D. Mitchell a bit was after the Thursday night game, yes, he had big drops. But part of this, too, is these receivers, you got to kind of get them in a rhythm. You got to get them going in these games. And unfortunately for Justin Fields, I don't think he really gets these receivers into a rhythm, into what I call the flow of the game really well. So with this, I'm looking at these receivers. They're going to have a lot of opportunities down the stretch because, again, there's going to be games like I think Baltimore especially. They're going to score points, Baltimore, especially against this Jet defense. You're going to have to throw the football, and you're going to have to see what they have. I think this is a great opportunity because one of the reasons, and I talked a lot about this at the trade deadline, why I like these moves for Mechie and A.D. Mitchell is these are dart throws. But if we get to the end of the season, I know one of the fan base is praying that they're going to be the number 2 receiver. If that becomes the case, that's just gravy. But here's the way I look at it. If I come to the end of the season and I feel confident that I know Garrett's the one, but then I feel I have a really good 3 in John Mechie or A.D. Mitchell, or I have a really good 3 and 5, a good 3 and 4. Maybe Arian Smith is a bit of a gadget play guy. Again, I think they're kind of telling you maybe they're not as thrilled with Arian Smith's development because they've added 2 receivers to this room. But if I can come to the end of the season and go into the offseason on a depth chart of, let's say, 6 receivers, because that's what the NFL is now. It's 6 receivers. And maybe you put Arian Smith a little bit off to the side, but is Tyler Johnson your big blocking 5th or 6th receiver? Is John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell, do they have a significant role on this team? Like you can see them being a good 3 or 4. All of a sudden, that fills out that receiving depth chart pretty nicely. So you only have to go and get 1 receiver as opposed to, okay, they don't look great down the stretch. A.D. Mitchell's dropping a lot of footballs. Mechie isn't being able to get separate in coverage. We're going to not only need a number 2, but in all likelihood, a number 3. That addresses how you attack this offseason. So getting these guys these reps and getting them good looks from a professional quarterback, to me, is key down this stretch. But here's the rub to Tyrod Taylor. And this is part of the problem why he hasn't been starting is his injury history. Got nicked up in camp, got nicked up to the point in camp where we thought there's a chance he doesn't play and suit up the first 4 games. He's been banged up the last couple of weeks, made it through 2 quarters of the Panthers game, then the knee injury. The Jets, I think, are going to tell us a lot about this. And they made a move today, again, defensive line, and I'll get to that in a second and my thoughts on that move. But the Jets are going to tell us a lot in these coming days. Because one thing to me is very clear. Justin Fields should just be the 3rd quarterback. He shouldn't be the backup. You can't be yanking and pulling him in and out of games. Don't get cute and keep him as the backup because you'll run a couple of these wildcat plays. And just let the kid just sit down, take a breather, and just reset. But that brings us to the question, well, who's the backup? And now the quick answer is Brady Cook. Here's the thing with Brady Cook. And I do think the Jets are going to have to make a very significant decision. Because if the Jets are not comfortable with Brady Cook taking any snaps this year, they need to sign a veteran backup. I've been pushing hard for Desmond Ridder. I know they worked out Ridder 2 weeks ago. But if they are not comfortable with Brady Cook, or they don't think Brady Cook is ready to potentially play in a National Football League game, they need to sign another veteran. Because it can happen sooner than later. Heck, it can happen this week against Baltimore. Tyrod Taylor, the consistent thing about Tyrod Taylor is, unfortunately, he gets hurt. And if you think Brady Cook is going to be overwhelmed as a backup and will not be able to function in an offense, you have to go and sign someone. So if the Jets go and sign a veteran at some point this week, I think it tells you what they think of Brady Cook. And I understand the draw, the unknown. But unfortunately, Brady Cook is an undrafted quarterback for a reason. Unfortunately, he's closer to a Bryce Petty or a Christian Hackenberg than probably a Tyrod Taylor. If Brady Cook looks like he could be a functional backup, you would feel fantastic about that. The problem is I just don't know if they're going to look at that. And you look at this situation for 2026, they need to evaluate these wide receivers getting the football. And look, Tyrod Taylor's flawed. We know he's injured. We know he's not the same athlete as Justin Fields, but you have to give these receivers a chance. And I do think Aaron Glenn, I'll give them credit for it. Like, this was a tough move. And again, I'll be on Glenn because I think they should have gone to Tyrod earlier. But I think that this is a move where the coach swallowed his pride and again realized this is the right decision for this organization. This is the right decision. You're on a mini bye. You have 10 days to prepare for Baltimore. And look, I'm just going to say it. I think the Raven game could get very ugly. And again, you have a Raven team that's got an elite quarterback. If the Jets go out and Tyrod doesn't play great against the Ravens, I look for more of the games that the Jets should compete in. I think the Ravens game, the Patriots game, and the Bills game on the rest of the schedule. Now, the Bills game might be interesting because it's week 18, and we don't know what the Bills are going to do that week. But to me, I want to see this team compete really in 4 games. And ironically, they're in a row. I want to see them after the Ravens game compete and win against the Falcons at home, especially now with the news Michael Penix is likely out for the rest of the season. I want to see them beat the Dolphins at home because I want to see them be an AFC team, and I don't think the Dolphins are that good despite them somehow pulling out a win overseas. I want to see them go on the road and beat the Jaguars, who, again, I don't think are very good. And I also want to see them beat the Saints on the road because I don't think the Saints are very good. Now, if this Jet team especially can finish with 5 or 6 wins, and again, I don't worry too much about draft picks. I just look at this and go, look, you finish your season where you finish it, and you go from there in the draft. I'm not all about tanking. I don't think there's an Andrew Luck at the top. And look, the Jets have tried tanking. We saw what happens. We see teams that try to tank all the time and never works out. I just am of the opinion that if they love a quarterback in this draft class, they have the ammo to go up and get them. So, and again, I just don't think it's great for your mental health, to be honest with you, trying to hope that they lose games. But look, I think the Baltimore game could be ugly, but they have 7 games, and they need to get an evaluation. They need to see, okay, we have a legitimate tight end 1. Check that off the list. We have 2 receivers that, okay, maybe they're not our number 2, but we have a guy that can stretch the field as a number 4. We have Mechie who can maneuver and be our slot receiver as our 3. Check those off the box. We don't have to get them. Because, again, the Jets have a ton of draft picks. But if you can limit the amount of holes going into the draft, because, again, you're going to have free agency too. Maybe the Jets can focus on some more blue chips. Maybe they trade up and be a little bit more aggressive instead of filling out this roster potentially. So I've been saying it for weeks. I think Tyrod gives them the best chance to evaluate the team. It gives them the best chance to have a functional offense. And look, we also got to figure out Tanner Engstrom. I think Tanner Engstrom had a great script. I think Tanner Engstrom calls a different game with Tyrod. You can just see it. I think he's got a lot of positives with this offense. But I want to see it in this defense. I want to see him in normal scripts where they're not behind 2 touchdowns and the game's over because with Justin Fields, you can't overcome that. Like, one of the reasons Will McDonald had 4 sacks was because they were in normal scripts against the Browns. They weren't basically having the other team run the clock out against them. So I want to see them in those plus situations. Can Will McDonald get going? Can we see someone on this defense? Do we see Quincy continue to fly around? Do we see if Sherwood can get it going again? And we'll evaluate A.Z. Thomas. Like, hopefully he's back this week from the concussion. I mean, there's a lot of players to look at this team, and this is pure evaluation because right now, you have to trim the fat. You are seeing what is going to be here to build around in 2026. And to me, I think Tyrod Taylor not only gives you the better chance to win games, but he clearly gives you the best chance to analyze the talent. Again, the Jets made a move today. We'll get into that in a sec. Good to hear from you, Ben. Jesus, as always. Why was the accountability used with Fields 5 games ago? I think, again, the ceiling for Fields is higher. I think they like the kid a lot. They want to try. Look, I think the weird thing is this. The week Woody Johnson made the comments, I do think after the Panthers game, Tyrod was going to start against the Bengals. The problem was he was hurt. You go into the Bengals game. You win that game. Justin Fields, probably his second best performance of the year outside of Pittsburgh. And you look at the team, you go, well, can we build on this? Then you play the Browns. And again, Fields doesn't look as good as he did the week before, but you win the game. And it's kind of this weird limbo where you're like, well, we've won 2 games in a row with this quarterback. It's kind of a weird message if we sit the quarterback. And I'll be honest with you, they probably felt Tyrod Taylor wasn't healthy at that point to take over or didn't feel comfortable taking over. And then you have the Patriot game where the offense can't function. The first script looks, the first script looks great. Maybe they can build off of that. But it was clear Justin Fields, the problems that he's had all season, was definitely an issue. At this point, I think they will. They need to get interceptions. And I did see an interesting thing, too, with the Jets. And again, I think there's a difference between people that cover this team nationally as opposed to people that cover locally. Yes, it is very difficult when you see this team not get interceptions, and it's frustrating. But again, they're paying behind 2 possession games a lot. Teams are not going to be throwing the passes or forcing passes. You get turnovers when you have those positive scripts, when you have a lead, when you're able to rush, when you are forcing teams to play out of their comfort zone. So I think that goes into one of the reasons that we haven't seen this team basically make again, that's one of the reasons I think they made this decision right now. But I'm just glad that Glenn made this decision. I would have liked to see them make this decision earlier. But look, Glenn's got to prove himself down the stretch. Glenn has to basically show that, okay, I have the right guy basically here. The big thing that we haven't gotten yet, and I think we'll get it later this week, is where's Justin Fields on this roster? Is he the backup, which I think is the wrong decision? Is Brady Cook elevated to the active roster? If Brady Cook is elevated to the active roster, it does tell you one thing, which is they feel comfortable with him getting NFL snaps. Because if you're not, I'm telling you, Jets, you have to go and address that position. But it is interesting because the Jets did make a move today. They've added 29-year-old defensive tackler Khalen Saunders to the team. And I thought this was a very interesting move because, again, hasn't played a lot with Jacksonville, but I think Jacksonville's defense has been a mess. 29-year-old older player, but 27 games for the Saints, starter 2023 to 2024, 6.5 career sacks. Nice rotational defensive tackle with the Chiefs and the Saints. Comes from that winning pedigree in Kansas City. But the big thing I really looked at, too, first year in New Orleans was when Aaron Glenn was still there. So I think that there's some clear ties there. But I also think, too, and again, this came up in the chat with this defense, I think Wilkes is going to be one and done. I think the reason Wilkes was brought here was to help Aaron Glenn stabilize, not being experienced as a head coach. I would not be surprised if Aaron Glenn hires someone from his Saints tree or from the Detroit tree to be the DC. But to me, this is a very interesting move, too, because it's telling me the type of roster that this team is trying to build and how they're trying to change the mentality. Because under Robert Saleh, we saw this team become more of a zone team and become a lighter front. They wanted to attack with the front. They wanted to get at it with smaller, more aggressive defensive linemen, guys like Bryce Huff, who, again, are on the smaller side, but can come off the edge and maybe lack in the bit of the run defense. But guys that weren't exactly monsters. But you look at the moves they made by adding Smith from the Cowboys, over 340 pounds. Saunders is 324 pounds. I mean, even Quinnen played at a lighter 305, probably closer to 300. To me, it's clear that they want a lot of beef in the middle. They want to stop the run, which I thought they did well against the Patriots. And I also think, too, this might be a sign that Harrison Phillips, who was a bit nicked up going to that Thursday night game, maybe he's dealing with a bit of an injury and might not go on IR, but might be inactive for a game or two. So I'd keep an eye on that as well. But you bring in a guy who's clearly motivated. Actually had a fun tweet today saying back-to-back, because, of course, the Jets play the Jaguars and Saints back-to-back weeks, so I think he's going to be jazzed for that. But I think it's telling you that they're going to want to be a bigger physical defense. So you look at the guys they brought up. They're looking for big guys that can plug the run. I think you're going to look to see them upgrade the size at linebacker. I'm curious to see what they will do at safety, but it's clear they want size on this defense. Look at the corners. Brownlee, big slot, bigger than Michael Carter. A.Z. Thomas, over 6 foot, big physical corner. Brandon Stevens, taller, bigger physical corner. They're looking for big physical players. And I think that they're telling you what they're looking for. So as we move into the draft process, the defensive end position might get a little trickier because I'm not sure if they're going to be looking for maybe Will McDonald, like they'll use them as the hybrid edge. But does this mean that maybe some of the more finesse players, maybe smaller linebackers, maybe smaller defensive ends that are more closer to the 250, that stand-up 3-4 outside rush, maybe the Jets are looking for the bigger ends. They're looking for the 275ers, the 280-pounders that, can set that edge, but also can rush the passer. I also think, too, maybe they're going to play a little bit more of the 3-4 fronts eventually because they're adding these big defensive linemen, guys that can play the 5 technique. Does that mean that they're going to look to add more speed and blitz in the linebacking core? Again, they're a bit limited right now because Sherwood, I don't think, has played great, especially lately. Quincy's been playing better, but I don't know what they view him long-term. And Kiko, again, has been in and out of the lineup. Not bad, but I think he is what he is. He's a rotational middle linebacker. So overall, I thought it was a good move by the Jets. I like that they added another veteran player to this defensive line. I'm kind of curious to see what they do again. Harrison Phillips on Aaron Glenn. He deserves to win. I believe he will win. And look, don't forget too, Aaron Glenn already benched Justin Fields this year. He was going to start him before the Cincy game. But unfortunately, he got scratched with injury. And look, you get into a 2-game winning streak, you're going to try to ride the hot hand. And I think they did that for as long as he could. And look, would we have liked him the post game to rip Justin Fields? Would we have liked him, again, with the accountability? But it's kind of hard when you're winning those games. And look, he held him accountable ultimately. He wasn't good enough, so he's going to Tyrod Taylor. And, Khalen Saunders, also a big physical athlete, 320 pounds. I mean, he had that viral video of the pre-combine where the guy can do a backflip at 320 pounds, which is just, insane athleticism. But I think it's a nice plug. I'm kind of interested what this means for Jay Tufele. Obviously, I think a lot of Jets fans would want defensive end to be addressed a little bit more because they're sick and tired of Michael Clemens. But maybe we see them kick Juwan Briggs out a little bit more to the outside, play a little bit more 3-4 front. So we'll definitely see what they are able to do. But look, I think it's a nice move. I didn't get an opportunity really with Jacksonville. Again, Jacksonville has been kind of all over the place, especially on the defensive side. Overall, I think that this is a nice signing for the Jets. It's clear that they want to add a lot of beef. They're adding bigger size to the defense, and maybe we'll see more snaps on the edge for Harrison Phillips. Maybe we'll see more snaps on the edge. But I think it also tells you, too, that they don't love Jay Tufele. But we'll definitely see with this scheme definitely how he fits. But we'll also have to look, too, at how if they add more defensive. And the hard part is defensive ends are so tricky to add, especially at this point in the season. So I'm definitely very curious to see how they will handle the rest of this defensive end position. But it was also funny, too, because I don't know if he's in the chat right now. Again, let's get to some of your comments. But I did find it funny, too, because I have noticed the Shadur Sanders hype died down, especially after last night. So, again, Tony, I don't know if he's an upgrade, but Leonard Taylor, again, he was more of a smaller defensive tackle that was better as a pass rushing getting up the field. it seems like Aaron Glenn is going to work at getting pass rush from the edge and pass rush from the linebackers. Maybe they look for a tweener D tackle on passing downs, but it's clear he wants to stop the run with the D tackles and take up a lot of space with them. So I think it's telling you that they want a lot of physical and beef on the team. Is available and emerged and is finally healthy. And I think I agree too. He was available like if Fields got hurt, but I think they were like, look, we want Tyrod to be 100% healthy because the problem with Tyrod is he's fragile. If we put him out there at 80%, he's probably going to finish the game at 20%, which is something we definitely do not want to see. Again, like and subscribe to the channel. Chris, good to hear from you as always. And look, we'll look to Khalen Saunders. I thought, again, is someone I would definitely keep an eye on. I have my own theory. I think with the Jets with the draft too, I have two theories. I think they're going to draft a quarterback, but there's one of two plans. Either you love a guy in this draft that you think is a franchise guy and you go get him, or you get someone that you can bring in to compete for the backup or hopefully be your backup or push to be a starter late in the season to show at least the front of fans that you can make a rookie work or at least have a success with a rookie. I could see the Jets, especially if they don't love the quarterbacks in this class, trying to find a bridge quarterback and drafting someone on day 3. Especially and look, I think, is there a world where, Saunders, Khalen Saunders again, sorry about that. I got a little bit confused. I thought we were talking about someone else. But again, I love the Khalen Saunders pickup. I think it's a good one. But Melvin, in terms of Cooks, I think it's going to be telling. I said this early in the show, Melvin. I don't think you were in. But I think what they do with Cooks will be telling. Because here's the thing. If you make Brady Cooks your backup, guess what? He's going to get snaps at some point this year. 7 games with Tyrod Taylor's injury history, he's going to be getting snapped. And if you are uncomfortable, whether you're Engstrom, whether you're Aaron Glenn, and you're not comfortable with him getting NFL snaps, because here's the thing. Justin Fields shouldn't be the backup. I don't want Justin Fields the excuse to be, we'll run like some wildcat. No. Justin Fields needs a hard reset. Justin Fields, it's clear you're moving on from him. We know it's over. It's not going to work. If you don't love Brady Cook, you got to go sign another veteran. It's plain and simple. Because one name I'd keep an eye on, and the reason I would, again, just got cut from the Panthers. I'd keep an eye on him because he has ties to Aaron Glenn. Maybe they bring in Hendon Hooker. Remember, former 3rd-round pick for the Lions. Knows the system that they run. He's out there. They obviously worked out the guy from the Browns. They worked out I've been saying his name all the time too recently. It'll come to me in a bit. But I think it'll be telling, because if, like I said, if you believe that Brady Cook is ready to take NFL snaps, he's going to be the backup. If he's not, unfortunately, you're going to have to sign another backup. You're going to have to. And I don't think Jet fans want to see him play here again, and that's unfortunate. But, I just think that you need to go out and get another quarterback. Because again, don't forget too, it's not just this team, but Michael Penix just got hurt. If you want to get one of these veterans, you got to strike quick, because injuries going to keep happening throughout the season. The guys are going to have to be picked up. So if I'm the Jets, I'm looking to add someone right now. I really am, because you need to keep adding pieces to this team. If that's the route you want to go, so on day 2, our guys, mobile stuff. I'm curious, though, Rico. I don't know if they're going to take it. We'll see, because they've added athletic quarterback. I thought they wanted someone more like Jared Goff, but we're going to see exactly what they do. I've brought this name before, a kid who I think is going to be available, someone that's got the size to play the position. He's currently working with an NFL-style offense in college, working with an NFL coach as his head coach. I would really look at UConn's Joe Fagnano. Again, 25 years old, older senior, but someone that highly accurate passer, 68% completion percentage this year, has thrown nearly for 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns through his first pick of the season in this last game. I think he's an efficient kid. And look, I think his ceiling is a really good backup. But in this league, you need good backups because the way the season is, with the way the schedule keeps going, it's going to be 18 games sooner than later. Now in the NFL, you need to have someone that can step in and keep the ship afloat for 3 or 4 games, win you at least one of those games, because you're going to lose your quarterback at some point. It's just going to happen. So he's someone I'd look for on day 3. Again, I've watched him play, highly accurate, not the greatest athlete, but I think he's good enough to maneuver in the pocket. If he needs to escape, he can run a little bit. But he's just a really efficient passer. And I just look like the last 2 seasons that he's had. And I understand UConn doesn't have the greatest competition. I understand he's not playing at the highest level, but I look, he's being coached by a former NFL coach, which I think really does help. I just look at his last 2 seasons. Last 2 seasons has thrown for over 64% completion, has thrown nearly 4,500 yards, and his touchdown to TD ratio is insane. He has 45 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. I mean, that to me is someone like I would keep an eye on, and I think is flying a bit under the radar. But we'd also love to hear what you guys think, especially Melvin's hurt with the Justin Fields. I'm sorry, Melvin. Again, I don't think it was the worst contract in the world. Thomas, we're going to find out this week, like I've been saying. Brady Cook, we'll see what happens. We haven't gotten that word yet. Will he be elevated to the backup quarterback position? I don't know. All I know is Justin Fields cannot be the backup quarterback. And if you don't think he's good enough to be the backup quarterback, I do think what you have to look at is some of the options out there. Like you've already worked out Desmond Ridder. Because Tyrod Taylor, I will put money on it. If you want to make a bet on any betting website, that Tyrod Taylor will not start or not finish the season. He will not play 7 games. He won't. Maybe the Jets will get lucky and they get 5 out of him. But just with his history, just with the injuries, we know like he couldn't get through a half this year without a knee issue. So if I am the Jets, I'm looking to go out there and make sure to get the backup. Because, look, if you're comfortable with Brady Cook playing snaps, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. If you're comfortable with it, like there's a situation, even this week, 3rd quarter against the Ravens, Tyrod Taylor scrambles, banged up, has to come out. Are you comfortable even for a series or 2, Brady Cook having to play football? Because if the answer is no, then you have to add another variant. It's just simple as that. Let's get some more of your comments. Super Chat, jump to the front of the line. If the Browns take Mendoza, should Muji ask, did you watch the game last night? Keep it simple. Did Shadur look good last night? I don't think so. I don't get it. I mean, look, Cook can throw the football. We will definitely have to see what they do. So I do think that if you are the Jets, you have to be able to throw the football. If they're comfortable with Brady Cook throwing, look, maybe they like what they saw from Brady Cook. Don't forget, it's clear they've done a lot of homework on Armand Membu. And because you had so much work on Armand Membu, guess who you're going to see every snap? Brady Cook, his quarterback. So, and I mean, I guess the big thing for Cook is he is a 3-year captain. He was the starter since a sophomore. He's got 3 years of starting. He's a 26-12 career quarterback. He's an okay athlete, can pick up yards if he has to. Again, he needs to – I like the touch. You have to see the mechanics. He got sometimes he was willing to throw without setting his base, which is his feet. I'm just going over some of my notes that I had on him. I just had to bring those up. Look, he has enough to, I think, be a really good backup. You need to work on it. The big thing for him was ball placement. And what was the biggest problem with Justin Fields was ball placement. So Brady Cook can be efficient, but if he comes out there and on those out routes, he's throwing them behind the receivers or he's overthrowing guys, that could be an issue. But we'll find out. I think it'll be very telling this week what they do with Brady Cook, because if they don't have him be the backup, it tells you they don't think he's ready. Yeah. I don't get what the Sanders thing is. I almost feel like you guys are just trolling me at this point, because the Jets, if they wanted Sanders, they had multiple opportunities. But with Shedeur Sanders too, we know Aaron Glenn wants guys that live, breathe, and sleep football. He wants guys that are going to work hard. So when I see people that say, oh, Kyler Murray, who's one of the big questions is his work ethic. Shedeur Sanders, who again told the Ravens, you know what, if I don't want to be a Raven if I'm going to be the backup there. Just how he handled everything. And look at last night. Look at how he played the other night. 3 and out, interception, 3 and out, 3 and out. I mean, that was the start. In his debut, and again, rookie quarterback, good defense, before 16. That's 25% completion. 2 sacks, a fumble, 13.5 passer rating, and -6 net yards on 16 dropbacks. There's only one quarterback that's had worse net yards this year, and we all know who that is. That was Justin Fields in the Bronco game. He had -10. So, I mean, I guess the big thing with Sanders is, like, if he had one more negative play, at least he wouldn't have been the worst quarterback performance this year. So I just don't get where that is coming from with Shedeur. And yeah, drops happen, but the thing I keep seeing with Shedeur is, like, I don't know, like, and you saw what Gabriel started over him. I agree with you, Melvin. Like, never forget too with Sanders. Let's be completely honest. That wasn't a Kevin Stefanski pick. Kevin Stefanski took Dylan Gabriel, who doesn't look good. But that's the quarterback he wanted over Shedeur. We all know why Shedeur was picked by the Browns. They were picked because of the owner. They were picked because the owner had that extra pick. The owner gets to basically have his own. Like, if you go back and watch the tape, you look at that room did not look happy. It basically was the owner who wanted the 15 minutes of fame to say, hey, we got Shedeur. So ESPN and the national media would have a reason to even pay attention to Cleveland this year. Because, oh my God, Shedeur Sanders is there. I mean, think about this. If you really want to get crazy in the NFL, what did the Browns fire Stefanski? And again, he, I think, will be a good coach somewhere. And Tony, I don't know yet. I haven't seen that yet. That usually will come later this week. And I also think it will come at Aaron Glenn's press conference later this week, because that's going to be a question. You know, they're going to ask if Fields is the backup. And again, Tony, you bring up a good point. Dylan Gabriel, I don't think is a good quarterback. But the Browns trust him to throw the ball 32 times a game. The Jets don't want Justin Fields throwing the ball 20 times a game. That's all you need to know. And look, everyone that's saying, oh, Sanders. Every team had multiple opportunities. Every team had 5 rounds worth of picks to pick Shedeur Sanders. And they all said no. Although, if you really want to get crazy, I know this is probably not going to happen. But is there a world where the Browns owner decides to go full in on this crazy and hires Dion to be the head coach of the Browns and try to get the most out of Shedeur? I mean, it's possible. I don't think it's going great in Colorado, but we could definitely see crazy things happen. You know, and look, Michael Penix now is officially out for potentially a season-ending knee injury against the Panthers. Is getting a second opinion, but that is definitely a rough one for the Falcons. But, I mean, the big thing when I look at this team too is you need to look for Brady Cook. Like, if he is ready to go, and you feel comfortable that he can run an offense, and again, I'm not saying be great, but can he run a function offense that can put up 20 points in a game? Be competitive. If he's not, then you know the answer. Not saying number two. But again, they took him in the 5th, so even if you had a 6th or 7th rounder, keep it simple, they're not going to take him. And what did you see in that first game? Okay, those 2 receivers catch it. They 6 of 16. I mean, the Browns have gone every avenue not to play him this year. What does that tell you? Trust me, if you think the Browns and Kevin Stefanski thought Tyrod Taylor was the answer or showed progress, they wouldn't try to get him on the field. They've done everything possible to keep him off there. Melvin, that's not going to happen. The only Harbaugh came back to the NFL because of the Charger job. He chose that job because he wanted Justin Herbert to be his quarterback. And I think that goes to a wider range, which is, I know the pipe dream for Jet fans is Joe Burrow. I don't think that's going to happen. The Bengals just gave them all that money and the receivers all that money. They're not going to blow it up. And I also think Joe Burrow, could he force his way out eventually? Sure. But I don't think the timing's good right now because, yes, the offensive line is getting killed. Yes, the reason he's getting hurt is the Bengals. But right now, I think it's tough when the Bengals just gave you and all the receivers all that money. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm out now. I would say maybe in a year, if this continues, I could see that happening. If it's another bad draft, if it's another bad offseason. But I don't think it's at that point yet. I mean, let's be honest. I think your best realistic options is trying to trade for Mac Jones, who I think would give you a bridge. And let's be honest. I know that Mac Jones isn't the sexiest pick, but Mac Jones has also played with a bad OC in New England and was able, with not great weapons, to make a Pro Bowl in his first season. Mac Jones is not a great athlete, but Mac Jones has also proven that he can win football games in this league. And here's the reason I would take a shot on him. And again, Super Chat to jump to the front of the line. A reason I would try to trade for Mac Jones if he's available is this. One thing that has driven me nuts, and I think a lot of Jet fans, is this diluted story with Sam Darnold, which is Sam Darnold went to the Jets ruined him, and then all of a sudden he goes to the Vikings, looks like an MVP candidate, goes to the Seahawks, and look at how great Sam Darnold is, and I'm really happy for Sam. But people are tending to forget there was a couple of years in the middle there. Their memories like, oh, yeah, he played for the Panthers with Baker, and both of them almost got ruined by the Panthers. But where did he stop in between? Where did he stop before Aiden O'Connell? He stopped in San Francisco. He stopped with Shanahan. A part of me wonders, when you have that good of an offensive coach with Shanahan, does it allow Shanahan with Mac Jones? Can he pick up things in defenses? Can he read coverages better? Can he pick up little things in film better? Maybe it's a good stop for him. And then if the Jets go after him, maybe someone that understands the game in a little bit. Maybe is someone that could go out there like, look, the Jets don't have a 3rd round pick. Could they trade maybe a 4 and a future 5? Or again, I'm not giving up a 2, but could you give up a couple day 3 picks to go get him? I mean, he's only under 1 year of a contract. I don't think it would cost an abundance of picks to go and get him. He's got 1 year on his contract next year. I don't think it's a bad option. And I would also look at that and being like a reasonable option where I'm like, okay, if I draft a quarterback, I feel comfortable starting Mac Jones this season. If I don't draft a quarterback and draft a quarterback on day 3, I still think I can win 7 to 9 games maybe with Mac Jones. Maybe there is a limited ceiling, but the opposite, Justin Fields. I think there's a decent floor with Mac Jones. I mean, don't forget, Mac Jones is also, we talk about all these former first-round picks resurrecting their careers in the National Football League. Well, he could be another one. Another former first-round pick, another player that has been bounced around. I don't think New England did a great job developing, but, I mean, this is still a guy that has won 25 football games. This is a guy that, again, went to Jacksonville where I don't think was in a great situation. But this is someone you want to look at it in his career. He's a 66.5% completion percentage. He can move the football. He might not have the biggest arm. He might not have the sexy stats, but you look, he's efficient. 67 passing touchdowns to 50 picks. 8 games. If you even twist that and said, oh, Max threw 8 games with the Jets, had 11 touchdowns, 8 picks, and threw for 1,800 yards, I think you would take that over what we've seen from Justin Fields. Like, I would look, and again, he's going to be 28 years old next year. I think it would be a really good bridge. Like, I keep seeing Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is shot. Gardner Minshew maybe, but again, like, I don't know how much of a market there's going to be for J. I really don't. I really don't think there's going to be. No, it was a 2-year contract, Tony. Earlier in the show, I mentioned this. This is why I think it's a good time with Justin Fields. What they did with Mac Jones is what the Jets did. They wanted to hedge their bets. So, look, if Mac Jones plays well, now they have a tradable asset. The Jets with Justin Fields, if Justin Fields played the Justin Fields we saw against Pittsburgh for the majority of the season, we would look at this as being a great contract that's under team control. What's going to happen with the Colts? Colts are going to be in a difficult position. What if the Colts finish in the top 2 seeds but get knocked out early in the playoffs? What if Daniel Jones regresses? What if he gets hurt down the stretch? What do they do? He's a free agent. They're going to franchise tag him? Okay, he's going to be then one of the top 5 salaries in the NFL. Okay, they got signed to a long-term deal. You don't think Daniel Jones is going to be sitting there going, this is probably my last chance for a really great contract? You don't think he's going to try to get every red cent he can? I think he would. I definitely think he would. Oh, I'm sorry, Melvin. I just saw that break. Hopefully I'm back. If I'm still having issues, let me know. Which is scary because that is a bad draft class, man. Like, I'll tell you, like, that hype was just so. Yeah, but I don't think he can play, JW. I mean, come on. I don't think he can play. So I just think Mac Jones is a decent option. Again, I think that with this Jets team too. So I'm trying to think, like, who is. I don't know if McKee's hurt, though. McKee's hurt. He might be. Plus, it's the regular season. You're not going to make a trade now. I don't think you're going to trade during the offseason. Yeah. I don't think Shanahan's going to go for that, Tony. I like the creativity, but I don't think he's going to go for that. But look, overall, this is what the Jets needed to do. They needed to make this move because his offense needs to function as a normal passing offense. This is a team that they need to see what they have at wide receiver so they can address, okay, do we need to add just one or do we need to add 2 or 3? This is a team that needs to see what they have in Mason Taylor. And look, we're going to find out this week. I don't think Justin Fields should be the backup. I think Brady Cook gets elevated, but if he doesn't and they sign another veteran, it tells you they don't think he can play NFL snaps with Brady Cook. I think it's just that simple. But look, Tyrod, this needed to happen. We need to see what they can do. They need to evaluate themselves. And look, I still think it's going to be an ugly game for the Jets this Sunday. I think the Ravens, again, have a lot to play for. But it is very interesting. Again, some breaking college news. James Franklin is going to be the head coach of Virginia Tech. So if you're a Virginia Tech fan, would love to get your thoughts on that. But look, this Jet team right now, it's all about valuation. And again, I think they did a nice thing too. And one thing that I really like about this front office, and again, they deserve grief for some of the moves they've made this offseason. But I will give Darren Muji this. The one thing that drove me nuts with Joe Douglas was I felt like once the roster was assembled by training camp, they were not going to do a lot during the season. They weren't going to look to add or make moves. Even with this season, the way it's gone, the Jets are still adding. I like the Khalen Saunders ad. Again, we've seen him. He can catch a pass. Maybe that'll be a jumbo set we see against the Saints. But a veteran defensive tackle that's worked with Aaron Glenn before, started 27 games from 2023 to 24, didn't work in Jacksonville this year, a 324-pounder. And it's telling me Aaron Glenn wants to build a big physical defense. Under Robert Saleh, they were more of a finesse speed defense. I think he wants a team that is going to be incredibly physical. And I just look at this too as this was an inevitable change. It needed to happen. And I think it's happening at the right time. And, we're going to end the show at this too. Again, we're still waiting for updates, but, we want to send our thoughts and prayers to Chris Boyd and his family again. Incredibly difficult what happened there in New York. Again, we're still waiting to find out all the details, but you never want to see someone in critical condition. So, and even though he's a very minor role in this team, you can tell from the outpouring of this team and how much they care about him. And look, it is definitely frustrating to see that. But, just wanted to send our thoughts and prayers with Chris Boyd and his family. But, the Jets have a new quarterback. They've added Khalen Saunders, some more beef on the defensive tackle room. I think that is a very good decision. Look, the Ravens are going to want to run the ball up the middle with Derrick Henry. So you're going to need as much beef as possible. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a jumbo set with Jawan Briggs playing end and the Jets having basically over 1,000 pounds on that defense. And look, I think Mozzie he showed some flashes again, big defensive tackle, but we'll see. It's clear what they want. They're telling you, we want beef in that D tackle room. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you miss our latest live stream. Check out our podcast wherever podcasts are available. We'll be back after every single Jets game. We have plenty of NFL draft content and off-season stuff coming up throughout this very busy off-season. And, of course, with all those draft picks, we'll be breaking down a lot of the prospects and, of course, be doing a ton of mock drafts. But, again, we'll try to get a preview in later this week. Make sure to like and subscribe for that. Again, we're trying to help this algorithm. So if you know any Jet fans, share our content, follow us on social media at Rich Sports Talk on X and Instagram. Again, thank you, everyone, for your great comments, your questions today. You help make the show phenomenal as always. I look forward to talking to you next time and seeing you again on another episode of Rich Sports Talk. We